Scripting. So what about scripting? Scripting in Photoshop. By the way, Photoshop supports external automation through scripting. And in Windows, you can use scripting languages that support COM automation, such as VB-script. And in macOS, you can use languages such as AppleScript that allow you to send Apple events, by the way. And this language, by the way, are not cross-platform but can control multiple applications such as Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and Microsoft Office. And by the way, in macOS, you can also use Apple's Photoshop actions for Automator to control tasks in Photoshop. And you can also use JavaScript on either platform. And JavaScript support lets you write Photoshop scripts that run on either Windows or macOS. And note here please, and be careful. Refer to the scripting documentation installed in the Photoshop CS5 and the scripting and documents folder, and also here. And the script listener plugin can be found in Photoshop CS5 and scripting and utilities, and it's also available here. And so what about run a JavaScript? How to run a JavaScript? You can choose file, then choose scripts, and then select the script from the list. And the scripts list includes, by the way, all the scripts files saved with a .gs or .gsx extension and saved in the Photoshop CS5 presets and scripts folder. To run a script saved in another location, you have to choose file, then choose scripts, then choose browse and navigate to the script. How to set scripts and actions to run automatically. By the way, you can have an event such as opening and saving or exporting a file in Photoshop and trigger a JavaScript or a Photoshop action. And Photoshop provides several default events, by the way, and or you can have any scriptable Photoshop event trigger the script to the action or action. And you should to see the Photoshop scripting guide for more information and on scriptable events. We have steps. Step number 1. You should to choose file firstly, then choose scripts, then choose script events manager. Step number 2. Select enable events to run scripts actions. And step number 3. From the Photoshop events menu, you should to choose the event that will trigger the script or action. Step number 4. Select either script or action, and then choose the script or action to run when the event occurs. And by the way, Photoshop has several simple scripts you can choose, and to run a different script, you should choose browse and then navigate to the script for actions, and also you should choose the action set from the first pop-up menu, and an action from the set in the second menu. The action, by the way, must be loaded in the actions panel to appear in these menus. Step number 5. Click Add. The event and its associated script or action are listed in the dialog box. Step number 6. To disable and remove individual events, you should select the event in the list and click Remove. To disable all events but keep them in the list, and deselect enable events to run scripts and actions. So what about process a batch of files? And how to convert files with the image processor. By the way, the image processor converts the process multiple files. Unlike the batch command, and the image processor lets you process files without first creating an action. And also you can do any of the following in the image processor, by the way. You can convert a set of files to either JPG or BSD or GIF format, or convert files simultaneously to all three formats, and after that process a set of camera raw files using the same options, and after that resize images to fit within specified pixel dimensions, and embed a color profile or convert a set of files to RGB and save them and as JPG images for the web, and after that include copyright metadata in the converted images. And the image, by the way, processor works with Photoshop BSD and JPG and camera raw files. We have steps in this point. The first step, choose file, then choose scripts, then choose image processor if you use Photoshop, and after that choose tools or choose Photoshop and select image processor if you use Bridge. Step number 2, you should select the images you want to process, and you can also choose the process any open files or select a folder of files to process. Step number 3, optional. You should select open first image to apply the same setting to all the images. And if you are processing a group of camera raw files taken under the same lighting conditions, you can also adjust the setting in the first image to your satisfaction and then apply the same setting to the remaining images. And also you can use this option with BSD or JPG source images if the file's color profile doesn't match your working profile. And also you can choose a color profile in which to convert the first image and all images in the folder. Note here and be careful in this point. The setting, by the way, you apply with the image processor are temporary and used only with the image processor, and the image's current camera raw setting are used, by the way, to process the image unless you change them in the image processor. Step number 4, you should select the location where you want to save the processed files. And if you process the same file multiple times to the same destination, by the way, each file is saved with its own file name and not overwritten. Step number 5, select the file types and options to save. We have many options here now to save. The first option, save as JPG. If you'd like to save as JPG, it's meaning save the images in JPG format within a folder called JPG in the destination folder. And the second option, quality. Quality is meaning that sets the JPG image quality between 0 and 12. The third option, resize to fit. Resize to fit is meaning that resizes the image to fit within the dimensions you enter in width and height, and the image retains its original proportions. And the third option, convert profile to RGB. It's meaning convert the color profile to sRGB and make sure that include ICC profile is selected if you want to save the profile with the image. And the next option, save as BSD. Save as BSD is meaning save the images in Photoshop format within a folder called BSD in the destination folder. And the next option, maximize capability. Maximize capability is meaning that saves a composite version of a layered image within the target file or compatibility with applications that can't read layered images. Maximize compatibility is meaning that saves a composite version of a layered image within the target file for compatibility with applications that can't read layered images. Save as TIFF. The next option, save as TIFF, is meaning that saves images in TIFF format within a folder called TIFF in the destination folder. The next option, LZW compression. LZW compression is meaning saves the TIFF file using the LZW compression scheme. Step number 6, set other processing options. Set other processing options like the next option, run action. Run action is meaning that runs a Photoshop action, and you can choose the action set from the first menu, and the action, by the way, from the second menu. The action set must be loaded in the actions panel before they appear in these menus. The second option, copyright information. Copyright info is meaning includes any text you enter in the IPTC copyright metadata for the file. And text you include here overwrites the copyright metadata in the original file. The next option, include ICC profile, is meaning that embeds the color profile with the saved files. Step number 7, click run. And by the way, before you process your images, you should click save to save the current setting in the dialog box. And the next time you need to process files using this group of setting, you should click load and navigate to your saved image processor setting. How to process a batch of files. how to process a batch of files. By the way, the batch command runs an action on a folder or of files. And if you have a digital camera or a scanner with a document feeder, you can also import, by the way, and process multiple images with a single action. And your scanner, by the way, or digital camera may need an acquire plugin module that supports actions. Note here, please. By the way, if third-party plugin wasn't written to import multiple documents at a time, it may not work, by the way, during batch processing or if used as part of an action. And contact the plugin manufacturer for further information. And also you can import PDF images from Acrobat Capture or other software. And by the way, when batch processing files, you can leave all the file open and close and save the changes to the original files, or save modified versions of the files to a new location, and leaving the originals unchanged. And by the way, if you are saving the processed files to a new location, you may want to create a new folder for the processed files before starting the patch. And to patch process using multiple actions, you should to create a new action firstly that plays all the other actions, and then batch process using the new action. To batch process multiple folders, you should to create aliases within a folder to the other folders you want to process, and then select the include all subfolders option. And for better batch performance, reduce the number of saved history states and deselect the automatically create first snapshot option in the history panel. So what about batch process files? Batch process files, we have many steps. Step number 1, you should to choose file, then choose automate, then choose batch if use Photoshop, and then choose tools and choose Photoshop and choose batch if use bridge. Step number 2, you should to specify the action you want to use to process files from the set and action pop-up menus, and the menus display actions available in the actions panel, by the way, and you may need to choose a different search or load a search in the panel if you don't see your action. Step number 3, you should to choose the files to process from the source pop-up menu, and we have options here in this step. Number 3, folder is meaning that folder is meaning process files in a folder you specify, and then click choose to locate and select the folder. And import is meaning that process images from a digital camera and scanner or a PDF document, and opened files is meaning that process all open files, and bridge is meaning that process selected files in Adobe Bridge, and if no files are selected, the files in the current bridge folder are processed, by the way. Step number 4, set processing and saving and file naming options. For descriptions of the patch dialog box, setting cpatch and droplet processing options. So what about batch process files in nested folders into different formats? We have steps again. The first step, process your folders as you would normally until the destination step. Step number 2, you should choose save and close for the destination, and you can specify options for override action and the save as commands to do the following. By the way, if the save as step in the action contains a file name, this name, by the way, is overridden by the name of the document being saved all or save as, and the steps are treated as if they were recorded without a file name. And the folder you specified in the save as action step is overridden by the document's original folder. Note here, please, and be careful. You must have a save as step in the action, and the patch command doesn't automatically save files, by the way. And you can use this procedure, for example, to sharpen and resize and save images as JPG in their original folders. You can create, by the way, an action that has a sharpen step and a resize step, and then a save as JPG step. And when you patch process this action, you select include also folders and make the destination save and close, and select overridden and select override action and save as commands. And how to create a droplet from an action. How to create a droplet from an action. By the way, a droplet applies an action to one or more images or a folder of images that you drag onto the droplet icon, by the way, and you can save a droplet on the desktop or to another location on disk. Droplet icon. Actions are the basis for creating droplets, by the way, and you must create the desired action in the actions panel before creating a droplet. We have steps in this point. Step number 1. Choose file, then choose automate, then select create droplet. Step number 2. Specify where to save the droplet, and then click choose in the save droplet in section of the dialog box and navigate to the location. Step number 3. Select the action set and then designate which action you intend to use within the set and action menus, and then select the action in the actions panel before you open the dialog box to pre-select these menus. Step number 4. Set processing and saving and file naming options, and for descriptions of the patch dialog box, setting C patch and droplet processing options. So what about tips for cross-platform droplets? Tips for cross-platform droplets. By the way, when creating droplets for both Windows and macOS, keep in mind that the following capability issues in mind. After moving a droplet created in Windows to macOS, you must drag, by the way, the droplet onto the Photoshop icon on your desktop, and Photoshop updates the droplet for use in macOS. And after that, when creating a droplet in macOS, you can't use .exe extension to make droplets compatible with both Windows and macOS. After that, references to file names are not supported, by the way, between operating systems. And if an action step references a file or folder name, such as an open command and save as command or adjust command that loads its setting from a file execution, pushes, and the user is prompted for a file name. So what about process a file with a droplet? How to process a file with a droplet? You should drag a file or folder onto the droplet icon firstly, then Photoshop starts if it's not already running. And how to batch and droplet processing options. Batch and droplet processing options. Specify these options in the batch and droplet dialog boxes, by the way. We have options here in this point. Override action and open commands. Override action and open commands. It's meaning that ensures that the files you selected in the patch command are processed, by the way, and without opening the file you may have specified in the actions and open command. And if the action contains an open command that opens a save file and you don't select this option, by the way, and the batch command opens and process only the file you used to record the open command. This occurs, by the way, because the patch command opens the file specified by the action after each of the files in the patch source folder is opened, and because the most recently opened file is the one named in the action. The patch command, by the way, performs the action on that file, and none of the files in the patch source folder are processed, by the way. And to use this option, what should you do? To use this option, the action must contain, by the way, an open command, and otherwise the batch command won't open the files you have selected for batch processing. Selecting this option doesn't disregard it. Everything in an open command, only the choice of files to open. And deselect this option if the action was recorded to operate on an open file, or if the action contains open commands for specific files that are required by the action. We have many options. The first option includes all subfolders. Include all subfolders is meaning that process files in subdirectories of the specified folders. And after that, the next option, suppress color profile warning. It's meaning turns off display of color policy messages. After that, suppress file open options dialogs. It's meaning that hides file, open options, dialog boxes. This is useful, by the way, when patching actions on camera raw image files, and the default or previously specified setting will be used. The next option, destination menu. Destination menu is meaning sets where to save the processed files. The next option, none. None is meaning leaves the file open without saving changes, unless the action includes a save command. The next option, save and close. Save and close is meaning that saves the files in their current location and overwriting the original files. The next option, folder. Folder is meaning that saves the processed files to another location and then click choose to specify the destination folder. The next option, overwrite action and the save as commands. It's meaning that ensure that processed files are saved, by the way, to the destination folder specified in the patch command, or to their original folder if you choose save and close, and with their original names or the names you specified in the file naming section of the patch dialog box. And by the way, if you don't select this option and your action includes a save as command, your files, by the way, will be saved into the folder specified by the save as command in the action, and instead of the folder specified in the patch command. In addition, if you don't select this option and the save as command in the action specifies a file name, the patch command, by the way, overwrites the same file and is a file specified in the action, and each time it processes an image. And by the way, if you want the patch command to process file using the original file names in the folder you specified in the patch command, you should to save your image in the action. And then after that, when you create the patch, you should select overwrite action and the save as command and specify a destination folder. And if you rename the images in the patch command and don't select overwrite action, you should to save as command, and then Photoshop saves your processed images twice. And once with the new name in the specified folder, and once with the original name in the folder specified by the save as command in the action. To use this option, what should you do? To use this option, what should you do? By the way, the action must contain a save as command, otherwise the patch command won't save the processed file, and selecting this option doesn't skip everything in the save as command, by the way, and only the specified file name and folder. Note here, please, and be careful. Some save options, by the way, aren't available in the patch or create droplet commands, such as JPG, compression or TIFF options. To use these options, by the way, record a save as step in the action that contains the desired options, and then use the override actions save as commands option to make sure that your files are saved actually where you specify in the patch or create droplet command. And Photoshop disregards, by the way, the specified file name and pass in the actions save as command and retains the save options using the new path and the file name you specify in the patch dialog box. So what about file name option? File naming is meaning that it specifies file naming combinations if writing files to a new folder, and select elements from the pop-up menus or enter text into the fields to be combined into the default names for all files. And the fields lets you, by the way, change the folder and formatting of the components of the file name. And also you must include at least one field that is unique for every file, and for example, file name and the serial number or serial letter, to prevent files from overwriting each other. And the starting serial number specifies the starting number for any serial number fields, and the serial letters fields always start with the letter A for the first file. So what about compatibility? Compatibility is meaning that makes file names compatible with Windows or with macOS and Unix operating systems. And by the way, saving files using the patch command options usually saves the files in the same format as the original files. And to create a patch process that saves the file in a new format, you should to record the save as command followed by the close command as part of your original action, by the way. And then you can choose override action and the save as command for the destination when setting up the batch process. We have options here in this step, 3 options only. The first option, error menu. Error menu is meaning specifies how to handle processing errors. The second option, stop for errors. Stop for errors is meaning that suspends the process until you confirm the error message. The third option, look errors to file. Look errors to file. It's meaning that look errors to file. It's meaning that records each error in a file without stopping the process. And if errors, by the way, are logged to a file, a message appears after processing. And to review the error file, you should open with a text editor after the batch command has run. Thank you so much.